Welcome to our first 2020 ICAN Women's Leadership Conference pre-event. Today was the original date for ICAN's 27th annual conference, so we thought today would be the perfect time to come together and begin looking forward to our new date of August 19th. We are in unprecedented circumstances in our world right now and in our workplaces. And of course, ICAN is mindful of the impact social distancing has had on all gatherings and live events like our conference. Much like all of you, ICAN is actively engaging in monitoring social distancing norms and directives in our region and community. We promise you that on August 19th, ICAN will deliver to you the same high quality content that you have come to expect from us in a safe environment. Only if it is not possible to safely meet at the CHI Health Center will we present our event virtually. Now more than ever, the elements of our theme, ensemble, elevating team performance, clearly resonate, especially in this evolving business landscape, which has become even more digitally driven. The musical reference of ensemble was inspired by Deloitte, who compared a collaborative team-based model of business to a great symphony orchestra in order to achieve harmony from all of its parts. So we thought, who better to help us kick off our conference pre-event than our opening keynote speaker on August 19th, Erica Volini. I am pleased to welcome Deloitte's Global Human Capital Leader and co-author of its annual Global Human Capital Trends Report, Erica Volini. Welcome, Erica.
Susan, thank you, and thanks for having me here. I'm thrilled to be able to kick off this virtual event.
Fabulous. Erica, we thought we'd begin by acknowledging this very unusual environment we're facing in the world and in business today. We know that you and your team have undertaken research around the idea of business resiliency in response to COVID-19. Why don't we start there and ask you to just share a little bit about business resiliency and how do we work our way through this pandemic?
I wish I knew the answer to that latter question,
exactly.
Susan. I think it's both resiliency and adaptability are the two words that we've really been using in the market. And I think it's been very stark to see which organizations have built the organizational models, the structures, the leadership capabilities to be able to be both adaptable and resilient in these times. And that is truly the key to success. It's about being able to pivot quickly, not just for yourself, but for your entire team. And I love the theme of this year's conference being ensemble, because I think teams right now are more important than they have ever been before. One of the things that we heard, we hosted a conference recently and had 3 CHROs from around the world speaking to us. And the thing they said the most is that they're seeing their C-suite leaders work together in ways they never have before, coming together on an almost daily basis to communicate with the employees, with the workforce as a whole, to give them confidence in what's happening. And I think that's part of being both resilient and adaptable, is being able to work together in different ways in a moment of crisis when the workforce needs to hear from their leaders now more than ever.
Could not agree more with you. So Erica, we know that you lead a global team. And could you talk a little bit about what are some of the things you as the leader of that global team have done to keep people focused, keep people working together?
Yeah, it's not easy. My global team is 12,000 people strong and spread across almost every country in the world. It's pretty incredible. And in all honesty, a big part of it has just been communication, and communication in different forums and different ways. Some of it through email, some of it through phone calls. We're using collaboration tools pretty extensively. We're using our knowledge management system to promote new knowledge, and using tools, whether it's internal collaboration tools, Slack, Microsoft Teams, Facebook by Workplace, any of them, just to stay connected. But I think the other half of it is it's displaying empathy. I'll share a personal story, because I have two mailboxes. One that has my title, that I send most of my communications out to because they go to so many people, and one which is my personal email box, just my name. One evening we found out that one of our partners had actually passed away due to COVID-19. It was the first person I knew who had even been impacted, let alone had died. And I sent that email from my personal mailbox, which I really never use, to all the leaders around the world, because it was a personal sentiment. And I got so many emails back from folks just saying, you gave us the permission to be sad. You gave us the permission to share emotionally. And I think that's something that we underestimate that leaders need to do. And that's part of being resilient. It's displaying empathy. It's being open and real, because no one has all the answers. And I think it's okay to share the raw emotions at times. And I think the beauty of having multiple forums and multiple ways to communicate with teams is that you can use different methods to articulate different things. I wouldn't have sent such a personal message from my email box with my official title, because it was more than that. It was really from my heart. It was a personal message, and I wanted it to be received that way. I think it's the little things like that that are really going to get us through this time.
What an important point you just made about empathy and about giving permission to be sad. There are so many things that one could be sad about right now. People in the family or work colleagues passing away, losing jobs, etc. I couldn't agree more again on that topic, that showing that empathy and allowing people to talk about it to some extent. And
yeah,
again,
it's amazing.
My deepest sympathies on the loss of your colleague.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it is amazing. One of the things, if you say silver lining or bright spot, and it's hard to use those words in a moment like this, but I think there has been more sharing and more transparency about what's happening in our personal lives than there ever has been before, whether it's being on a Zoom call and seeing someone's, personal space. I have an 18-month-old son and a nanny and a husband, and everyone's running around, and you can't tell an 18-month-old to be quiet, even if mommy's on an important phone call. And all of that all of a sudden gets exposed. I think there's two ways to look at that. It's either, you try to hide everything. I think that's impossible. But the other is you just completely embrace it. And I think it's very empowering for everyone. I think it's incredibly empowering for women right now, because I think that, all of a sudden things that felt like maybe you couldn't quite discuss them, or you didn't know how to put into words the challenges, they've become so much more visible and transparent. They provide a platform to be able to talk about them in new ways and to be more open about what's happening, and mental well-being topics that just are hard to talk about openly. And I think that is such a powerful thing that has happened as a result of this crisis. I think the question for organizations is, how are you going to sustain that in your culture moving forward? That's one of the biggest challenges I think organizations are going to face as they shift into recovering and hopefully thriving out of this, is preserve the best of what you've seen over the past 2 months. And I think the transparency around things like well-being and personal situations is something that's going to radically change the workplace forever.
Excellent points. The other day, I was on a Zoom call and my white cat walked right in front of the screen. I was just like, oh, well, So you talked a little bit about women in the workplace right now. Do you feel like this whole situation with COVID-19, kids being out of school, elderly parents needing help in this time, what do you see as the impact on, professional women, and what can they do to like stay on track with their careers?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an opportunity, it's a challenge and an opportunity, as most things often are, right? It's a challenge to balance everything. I think we're all feeling it, but that's the point. We're all feeling it. We're all in together. I think what women can do is, first of all, reach out to others to share stories. You now have a common thread. We have women who, are junior practitioners who may not have felt comfortable reaching out to someone senior because what do I have in common? Well, now you do have something in common. You have this crisis in common. You have this situation in common. So use that as a way to initiate conversations, to build new mentoring relationships that you would have been uncomfortable maybe doing otherwise. I think is a great opportunity. I think the other is use this opportunity to set boundaries in terms of how you want to work, because now there's a great deal of understanding. I totally understand, for example, why, someone who can't have their daycare is closed, right, during certain working hours, just can't be available for calls, right? Before, that almost seemed impossible to say. Well, I couldn't possibly say that because then I wouldn't be doing my job. Well, now it's understood. So how do you use this moment to set boundaries that work for you? Not necessarily to work less, but to work in a way that is best and most optimal for you. I think that's another opportunity for women to really take advantage of. And I think we're also recognizing that everyone has something in their life that they have to take care of, that they have to balance. And so maybe this, I don't want to say stigma, that's not the right word, but this view that this only applies to women, that's going to go away. And let's use this to segment our workforce in not the most generalized way. You're a woman and therefore you must have kids and therefore you must have challenges being a caregiver. And instead start to categorize and segment our workforce in ways that are really bring out their unique attributes. And I think women can push that and start to say, well, let me share who I really am beyond the generalization of I'm a woman or I'm in this age category. And I think we're going to start to see a shift away from those generalizations or stereotypes also. And I think women can absolutely capitalize on that. So those are just a few things that come to mind. But yes, it's incredibly challenging, but I do think it's opening up the door, as I said, to fundamentally change some things in the workplace. And women should be a big part of the forefront of driving that shift.
Talk a little bit about the Global Human Capital Trends report that obviously you are the leader of creating and developing. And talk a little bit about this whole idea of symphonic leadership, which became the theme for our conference, this year. Talk a little bit about that just in general, and then in this very unusual time.
Yes. So thank you for that ability to talk about the report. I'm incredibly proud of it. This is actually our 10th year of producing the report. It is the longest longitudinal study, the largest longitudinal study of human capital issues in the world. And you talked about the Symphonic C-suite, and that was actually a concept that we introduced back in 2018. It was actually the #1 trend in 2018, and it really surprised us that it was the #1 trend. And essentially what we found was that organizations said their C-suite leaders rarely, if ever, work together. And we thought to ourselves, in 2018, what we started to see emerge was a lot of complex issues that organizations needed to tackle. They needed to become digital. They needed to navigate the future of work. They needed to navigate what we're calling being a social enterprise, meaning all of a sudden more was being expected of organizations. They needed to contribute in different ways to society and the communities at large. And these issues, they were so complex that we said, if your C-suite leaders aren't working together, and if everyone's sort of staying in their silos, the finance person does the financials and the IT person looks after the technology and the HR person is the people person, you're never going to be able to tackle these immensely complex issues that are in front of organizations today. And when we saw that, I think it was nearly 80% said their C-suite leaders rarely, if ever, work together, we called a timeout and said, hang on, if you are going to survive and thrive in this decade and the next decade, you have to start to work together in a more integrated way. And the first thing that came to mind was of an orchestra. That an orchestra, everyone plays their parts, right? You're the best flautist. You play the clarinet, better than anyone else. But at the end of the day, all these instruments need to come together. They need to bring their individual skills and talents or sounds together in harmony. And that's the way they make beautiful music. And that's the way organizations are really going to make the transition into being one that could survive in the future of work. And that's what it meant to be a symphonic C-suite. This year, we're exploring this concept even further, and really talking about how organizations can not just work together more effectively, but can bring a human lens to everything they're doing. You know, we're in this world of technology. Look, we're on Zoom right now. There's more technology at our fingertips that could ever have been imagined. And frankly, when we go back to the workplace, we're going to see technology in all kinds of ways, taking our temperature, helping us figure out where to sit, how to sit. I mean, the workplace is going to change pretty radically. But even in a world of so much technology, we cannot forget the importance of the human element, because it's truly the human's ability to integrate with that technology and leverage that technology that is what drives organizations to be innovative, creative, and fuel their growth moving forward. And so our call to action is for organizations to stop thinking about technology and humanity as two distinct things, but to bring them together symphonically, as you talked about, and working in harmony with one another. We believe that is the path forward for organizations. And our report explores different ways that organizations can start to do that. And I don't think that it's more timely now. It's more timely now, I believe, than it ever would have been before with COVID-19, because organizations are really seeing the blend of technology and humanity come together in powerful ways just in the last couple of months. Now the question is, how can organizations sustain that sense of harmony between these two powerful forces going forward? So the report is being released on May 18th. You can type into any search engine, Deloitte's Global Human Capital Trends Report on May 18th. It will be available. There'll be a press release. But it's exciting, because I think we have an opportunity to really shape the future for organizations over the next decade. And there's a lot of changes ahead of us.
It is so exciting, as a baby boomer, where when I began in business, it was the telephone, and it was putting a stamp on an envelope and mailing it. And fast forward to now, and these last month and a half, right? The connections that you can make via technology today are almost as human as being in the same room and sitting across the table from one another. And it is so completely astounding to see how people are embracing this, and how, as you reference, how it's going to change meetings, travel, global teams, you know, et cetera. So it is really,
it goes to the point of resilience, right? That is resilience.
Exactly.
What humans are capable of doing and responding to is an amazing thing. I don't think there is anything more inspirational that's out there, is seeing how humans respond. I think we've seen the best of humanity in the last couple of months, and the opportunity for organizations to sustain the power and the potential of humans, I think, is an incredibly exciting endeavor, and one that we're, as a human capital practice at Deloitte, we're extremely committed to.
Absolutely. Before we complete our conversation, is there anything else you'd like to share with our ICAN audience regarding either COVID-19, leadership, Symphonic C-suite?
You know, it was an honor to be with you guys last year. And I said to Susan, the power in the room of so many women together in that room, it was addictive in a way. It completely gave me energy. And, you know, obviously we're in a different world with COVID-19, but I think regardless of whether we're in person or virtual, I'm hoping we can continue that energy. I do really believe what I said, which is that there is an important place for women right now to be able to shift the conversation around work, to make meaningful change for the workplace moving forward. You know, you never want to let any opportunity or challenge go to waste. And I think that that applies to COVID-19 as much as anything else. There's been a lot of tragedy and sadness, Susan, to use your word, you know, through this. There's no question about it. but there's also a lot of optimism and hope. And in our report, we talk about things like purpose, potential, and perspective, and possibility. And those are the types of words that I think we have the opportunity to really embrace as we move forward. So I'm looking forward to not only sharing stories that we hear, but hearing everyone else's stories as well. And I hope everyone stays healthy and safe, in their homes and with their families.
Erica, thank you so much to you and to Deloitte for your partnership, your sponsorship, your involvement with the ICAN Women's Leadership Conference. It's just been a terrific opportunity to see an amazing female executive leader like leading forward. It's just great. So thank you so much to you and Deloitte, and thank you to all of our partners for your support of ICAN and the Women's Leadership Conference. Our partnerships with you exemplify our ensemble theme for the conference this year, and we're very grateful to have all of you on our team. And we will have a fabulous conference on August 19th. Erica, stay well. We will talk to you before then, and we'll see you on the 19th. All the best.
See you then. Thank you.